Productions, we welcome you. We welcome you to our home, and we thank you for welcoming us into your home. Tonight, we have an interview with the sister, Èzili Dantò, and she'll be interviewed by Dr. Kheftusa Akhiba Ankh. Ankh Production is more than happy to bring you such a production. And that's what we're about, Ankh Productions. Not only history, but also with history, culture, psychology, and spirituality, tying it all into one, because that's what history is about. History doesn't stand on its own. It's tied to culture. And we look forward to bringing you more productions such as this. And in 2 weeks, we have a production with the sister Èzili Dantò entitled Identity, Culture, and the Haitian Revolution. That will be on February 11th, 7 o'clock in England, and 2 o'clock here in the East Coast of the United States. To do productions, we need donations, we need help. We love sharing information with our family. We love sharing information, allowing our community to grow. And for that, we do need donations. So if you can find it in your heart and in your mind, make a donation to Ankh Productions so we can continue to bring you lectures and interviews such as today, and the one is in 2 weeks. Now, let me tell you about who we have on today. Like I said, we have Sister Èzili Dantò. And who is she? Well, I'll tell you. Sister Èzili Dantò is a human rights international law attorney, an award-winning playwright, performance poet, and cultural activist. She was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and raised in the United States. She is an Haiti scholar and runs the Èzili Network, the Free Haitian Movement, the Haiti's Lawyer Leadership Network, ZiliD Designs, and ZiliD, Clean Water, Renewable Power, and Skills Transfers for Haiti. Èzili is the author of 10 plays and 2 book series. She regularly conducts Haiti teachings on the non-colonial narrative of Haiti, centering on Haiti's wealth, natural resources, revolutionary culture, Vodun spirituality, and this is expressed through her through the Vodun jazzotry performance productions. Èzili was featured in the Haiti as a Haiti scholar and historian in the documentary 1804, The Hidden History of Haiti. And in 2018, Èzili was honored at the Connecticut Women's Hall of Fame for her lifetime and justice and cultural advocacy work. This is who we'll be interviewing tonight, and I'd like to bring on Dr. Kheftusa Akhiba Ankh, who will be doing the interview.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. So I say, welcome. You found yourself in a peaceful place, and we wish for you blessings without number. And as you've heard tonight, we're bringing on a spectacular African woman, a sister who's on the front lines in continuing that important liberation work, and who is showing and has shown the commitment to her people. And as it has been said, we want to bring Sister on to do a lecture, but we thought it was important for us to, as they say, give the sister her flowers, or let's give her her Ankh. We need to show and prove that when you do this liberation work, that you get the respect that you deserve. So with that, if I can ask the sister to turn on her camera, then we're going to commence with what I know will be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful teaching, because I've been listening to this sister, and what I found that she starts with a soft voice, and when the warrior comes out, you're like, wow. So I hand over to you, sister, just to say your welcomes, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Honor and respect. Thank you so very much for having me. It's an honor to be on your platform. I've also looked at some of your work as you've sent them to me. And I want to say honor and respect to all of your listeners on behalf of Free Haiti.
Yes, yes, yes. Beautiful, beautiful. And, you know, this is close to my heart because as an African whose parents come from Jamaica, although I'm African, I still got that Caribbean thing. So it's always beautiful when we're walking in the footsteps of that Caribbean history, because as Dr. Clark said, that African people in the Caribbean have the most revolutionary history outside of Africa. And if the truth be known, Haiti played a major role in the freeing of African people. And so with that, because you're not here to hear me, I'm going to ask a series of questions to my sister, and we will have a dialogue. We will have around 15 minutes for some questions and answers, which will be placed in the chat. But let's get on with it and go ahead. So my first question, sister, was really, how has your background impacted on your quest for liberation? Because it's always important to have that understanding. I've heard you and you're so powerful in what you say. And I've noticed that you're able to really, and this is the mark of a scholar, you're able to really talk without notes, which I know that you have to know your subject. So I wanted to know, how did your background help you with the proficiency that I have seen you show and prove on your numerous lectures?
Like you said, I was born in Haiti. You can't come from Haiti without understanding what it means. And so once I understood what it meant, and then I looked at the world and saw what they were portraying, and their portrayal did not paint the Haitian, the people that I know. And so that's pretty much how my background allowed me to do the work that I do right now as the head of the Free Haiti movement. And I started that in 2004, doing the bicentennial. And there's a lot of layers to being an African. And so it's literal, it's psychological, it's spiritual. So I'll try to tell you some of the parts of me that allows for me to do this work. So born in Haiti, we are colonized, and the United States likes to put dictatorship with a black face. We call that neocolonialism, as you know.
Correct.
And so my parents were born into that struggle. And they found that they could not educate their children in Haiti during the reign of Duvalier, the dictator that the US kept in Haiti. And so they made a way for me by coming to the United States. And when they did, the same construct was still here in the United States, right? That if you're Black, you have a certain social caste. And so as I grew up into the life of a Black woman, of a Black person in the Americas, there was nothing else to do but follow the path that was laid out for me by my ancestors so that we can free ourselves and finish that Haitian Revolution that they started in 1791.
Beautiful, beautiful, sister. And you see, what I like about that is the fact that we recognize that colonization for Africans is global. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're an African person, then we can expect to deal with colonization. And here, colonization looks at the physical colonization, but more importantly, in many ways, the psychological and cultural colonization that has been thrusted on African people. So it's very clear to me when I've listened to you, and to me, this is really important, that you're a defender of your people. There is an inherent love that comes from you in terms of your defense of African people. But you're also a liberator in the sense of you teach knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You come in and you wipe the minds of our people clean. Now, I wondered, where did that level of commitment come from? Because many of us who have struggled should know that there is actually a price to pay when we show or we demonstrate that level of commitment. So my question is where did you get that inner fortitude to be such a strident defender and liberator of your people, my dear sister?
I come from the most powerful and beautiful culture that is on planet Earth. And that culture keeps me from going into the double visions of white domination. So I issue from source. Once you issue from source, then that graven image that is being projected upon you every day, you learn. There are skills that are taught in my culture, right? In the African culture. So hopefully, like when people speak to me, I try to give them some of the, how I move in the world, right? So as a Vodun is the oldest way of being on the planet. It actually influenced all the other Abrahamic religions and religions of the planet. Before the white settlers and the Neanderthal mind decided that patriarchy was the way, and that war, eternal war, was the price for freedom, the world was different. And most of our societies allowed for Ogu and Dantò. So I represent that archetype, and the male counterpart is Ogu in my culture. Male and female. And in those spaces, there are ways of issuing into the world. And though I was miseducated by the schools of the West, there was always something within me that didn't believe a word they were saying, because the people that I grew up with were not represented in their books. Give you an example. I remember I was a history major in college, and the professor brought in Gone with the Wind as history. What? And I come from Abdaraya Toya, the woman without whom there would not have been a Jean-Jacques Dessalines. What we say at the Free Haiti movement is the greatest hero who ever lived, because he actually changed the paradigm and brought in the high moral ground and allowed for millions of children who would have skin like the children that would slide down my thighs to be free, and to have this stand, this platform that you and I have today, but for this woman, Abdaraya Toya, who understood who she was. But what is the specifics, right? So we live in a society where the European mind works in this duality of good, evil, of this dialectic, right? And they don't understand how it's the serpentine path. I understand the serpentine path because I come from Dabala. I come from that space that gives archetypes. What are archetypes? They are energies that are repeated over and over and over again in the universe. So the energy of the warrior mother, the nurturer, the healer, Èzili Dantò, in other cultures called by various other names, a set, that energy repeats itself in the universe. The father protector, loving son, repeats itself. That's Ogu. And you can see it in Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who became the epitome of what Ogu is for this modern world. He not only said in his 1805 Constitution what a Black man is, and he said Black. He said that a Black man is a good husband, a good father, and above all, now this is not written in any constitution in the planet, a good soldier. This is a man who spent 33 years in slavery, almost. And why would someone like that understand? Someone who marriage at that time was a contract for transferring property, and we were the property, right? So the mulattoes in Haiti could not inherit. That means the white planter purposely would rape or have children, and they did not take care of those children. What did they do with those children? They sold them like livestock. So Dessalines said no to that. He said, you have to be a good father. The white planters were not good fathers. And they made the Black male an object where his sex was used against him. And he was supposed to he was supposed to provide property. So he was breeded like he was an animal, a stud. And the women were breeded like they were mares.
Yes.
And Dessalines said no. And until he said no, like Frederick Douglass says, slave ships with the name of Jesus came and went. And funeral sermons were sung until Haiti said no.
No.
And when you come from that and you're sitting in a room in a Boston University with a bunch of people who are saying that the Black woman didn't even know how to help give birth. When women, including white women back in the day before their husbands and sons started burning them, were healers. They were the ones who were so in touch with nature that they would know what that plant means. So imagine me, very young, in a class where I know what my aunts do in Haiti to take care of the family. And they're telling me that this is, Kizzy, I remember her name, and in that Gone with the Wind, she was like frightened of a woman giving birth. So what that professor was teaching as history about Black women, I knew instinctively was not true, because I came from Black women. I knew Black women. My mom was a Black woman, and I know what she does in the family structure. And essentially that's the answer to your question. How do I issue out into the world? I look at what the white academics write about me in mine, and I look at what I am. And so I always knew that if they say we are living in the South, we're living in the North.
Yes, yes, yes. So, I mean, that was a wonderful answer, sister, because there's so much in that. I can see the that masculine and feminine, that asset aspect in what you're talking about, because it's very important that we understand. And you talked about, you made me think of the spiral, and that's a whole nother conversation. But what was really interesting in it to me is that I'm working on a series of lectures where I'm looking at this issue of enslavement and the efforts to break the African family. So it's really clear from listening to you that by having that roots or those roots in the earth of Haiti and in the very soil of your own culture, that allowed you to see through the illusions that are created within the context of European society and within European schools and academia. And it's interesting to me how you saw that as a child. I have my own stories on that, but again, it's about you. But what I liked about that is that we as Africans have to recognize that unless we are rooted into our own cultural identity, as Amilcar Cabral said, we have no defense. The greatest defense that you have is living your own culture. And you clearly articulated that in your answer. That was a beautifully put together answer, my sister. So this kind of follows on from what you've just said in a way. But the question was, why is the plight? Because it's interesting that you started and you talked about your Africanness. Now, we know, as coming from the Caribbean, it's not necessarily an automatic that Caribbean people see themselves as African. They may know inherently, but that expression to outwardly say it and live it can be something different. So I wanted to ask you, why is the plight of Africans so important to you, sister? Why is the plight of African people so important to you?
Well, we're not represented in the world. What I am is not represented in the world, which means that it's traumatic to live, to have life. So if you're a young person, I never want another young person to have to go through these classes in schools and be told that Western culture is the height of civilization. Because it's not. It's about war, violence, rape, selling your children, human trafficking. That's how they built their so-called Western civilization. So for me, I can't be an honest, holistic human being living in this vibration of the planter's mindset and just have suburban amnesia and go and, do something where I escape the reality of it. So that's how I fit into the archetype of Èzili Dantò, the warrior mother.
Yes.
You see? Because once I learned the lexicon of my culture, it fit me. Coming out of Adam's rib did not fit me. Original sin did not fit me. I give birth as a woman, but yet I'm supposed to accept that every child under the Abrahamic religions that are born in sin. That did not make sense to me. The idea that no man has ever given birth, but somehow I'm supposed to believe that out of his rib I came. Or even worse, I came out of some ape through evolution. I knew that that was not true. At least it's not true for me. It might be true for the people saying it. And I leave them to it. But for my children, for Africa's children, we are original not only to planet Earth, but this whole multi-universe. And we're not alone. And this vibration that came into carnal being is just but a minute. But the only person that can change it are those who know better. So for me, I try to tell folks, for instance, right, when you're Guinea, right, I'm Guinea, right, that is what we say as Vodouist. Some historians say that means Africa, Guinea, because it, you know, the Africans always wanted to go back to Guinea, Guinea. But really what it means for Haiti, there is a term that's called Guinea Flan, G-I-N-E-N, Flan, F-R-A-N. And it means, and when we talk about archetype, we are the original trinity, right? We deal with trinity in so many different levels, right? Past, present, future, mother, father, daughter, child. But the one I want to focus on right now is Guinea Flan, which is that there is something about Western education that is useless because it doesn't help you with the split that happened at birth that made you what they call human, where mind, body, and soul, the trinity, seems to be separate. And Guinea Flan means that an educated person, this is almost lost in Haitian Vodun today. But what it means is that your words, your actions, and your thoughts manifest when they are one. So that's the Trinity. That's what Guinea Flan is. And it requires discipline when you're in this avatar, in this form, and you're being bombarded by all kinds of energies to remain one-pointed. And if I teach nothing else in the universe, I try to teach that as a way. This is not in the schools, but every child should learn that, because once you come into the world, there's all these energies and powers and principalities looking to host you and have you do what they want you to do. Give memberment to their thoughts, their desires. And to be Guinea Flan means, and this is something, of course, the politicians are not, right? Bill Clinton, when I went to Haiti in 1994, representing the Haitian president, you know, he was known for this philosophy of plausible deniability. So that the most glaring thing I learned about Western culture is that what they say and what they do, definitely not the same things.
Correct.
You understand? And that is not right, but they accept it as right. They accept it as practical, they tell you, right? So essentially, when they're educating their children, they're saying they're giving them this trauma, like by telling them that they have to be honest and good and forthright. And yet everything they're doing is the opposite. The adults. And so Guinea Flan means that you work towards that. You work towards your thoughts, right? Because your thoughts is what becomes your action, right? Your thoughts. So, and your words, right? Your words do not return void because everything is energy. And I learned that through, after studying most of as much as I could when I was a young person, the mythology of the other, then I was introduced to my own. And I came into Vodun because of I love the psychology. Like, I'm not the regular voodooist. Like, I don't do ritual. I don't go, I don't cut the heads of a chicken, right? What I see is the lexicon that modern day Haitian must bring into modern day world. For me, the most important thing I've learned are things like our ancestors were scientists and mathematicians. They saw the fractal world. They looked at the cosmology of the winter solstice, right? That lowest point of the sun in Ghana, that then rises like Dambala and moves to the right winter. And then you go through that valley. They understood that human beings replicate the cosmos, that we replicate the movement of the biosphere. So when you see them dancing, and so when I started dancing and I would do the Yanvalu, for instance, which is this movement that you see me doing right now, I knew that was the dance of creation. That's when you see the entwined Ogu and Dantò, you understand? And so it's always out of primordial space came two. That is Haitian cosmology. And the two had three. So one of the most important philosophies besides Guinea I just told you, because I like to leave people with certain things you're not going to really normally see. I used to teach this class called the Symbolic and Archetypical Nature of Vodun. So that 1 and 1 is 3 is a very powerful Haitian philosophy.
And
sorry,
go ahead, sister, carry on.
No. Now that you hear me talk about the cosmos, and how harvest is important, how each of the seasons are important, how each of them created a different fashion of life, right? So our ancestors watched, how the earth worked, and they made their working like the earth works. So work wasn't like some punishment, right? You plant a seed and it's something is going to grow. They understood what work was, and they worked in harmony. And that's part of that 1 and 1 is 3, right? You put the seed into the earth, and then you have a new life. Same thing with the male and the female, right? They watch all of that. And it was very natural to them. What I find with Western culture is it's not natural. It's these patriarchs who tell you rape is fine. Selling your children is fine. And even in modern days, they're doing it with MK Ultra. They were selling their young little blondes to the Arabs for political power. And they still do it. As a human being, as a woman, that is not, we are here to protect our children. And I always say to all the PhDs, if it's not protecting a child, then I don't actually want to hear it. One more thing, so that folks that are listening, that come from the Èzili network, which I run. So we talked about the trinity. We talk about one-pointedness. We talk about Guinea, words, action, thoughts being one. And I just want to say one more thing that's different from Western culture. Western culture tells you this, as above, so below. I go the opposite.
Interesting.
You understand? They tell you as above, there's something that's not you that's above there. And then that's something that's not you that's above there. You have to try to be that. Well, you are that already. You understand?
Mm.
There is another very important concept in Vodun. They say that when you are born, that is the greatest, most important achievement that happens, because the line going back to the beginning of time stood to make sure that your particular energy got here. So you
That's
are
right.
here for a reason.
Teach.
And you are here because that ancestral line sent you here
Mm-hmm.
to lift up an energy that's very important so that they can be rebirthed.
Teach it, sister. Teach it.
Not so that the planter mindset could be rebirthed.
Mm.
So when I say as below, so above, what I'm saying is that you were put in here with a mission to do something important. And there are other energies like Dr. here that I would meet on this journey. And we would connect at a particular kafu, crossroad, to do what it is that we came to do.
Mm.
And understand that there are migrated powers all over the planet, all kinds of energies that are trying to, that's the lexicon of Vodun, right? They tell you that the Loa, the archetype, the Èzili Dantò, can quicken you, right? If you have a certain level of detoxification, you have detoxified this vessel, right? Then you give them a path to then give them arms and strengthen you, right? That was the energy, Ogu and Dantò, that strengthened the women and men and children that did the Haitian Revolution.
Mm.
But today, when I talk to those Vodouists, especially those who are establishment, they want to tell me that Vodun is strong in Haiti because it was created there with 3 egregores. The Abrahamic egregores, the Taino egregores, and then the African egregores.
Interesting.
Right? And so my job is to say no.
Mm.
My
Okay.
job is to say no. So those are the things that I teach, and this is where I come from.
Wow, sister, you're making my job hard today, because you're saying so many things that I want to touch on, but I don't want to insert too much. But it's really important to understand that when you're talking about this cosmology, and you're talking about priests as scientists who have an understanding of how the forces of the universe work. Now, I wanted to point out something that's really interesting to me. You talked about the warrior mother concept. Now, to some people, that would seem like a contradiction. Mother and warrior. How does that work? Not for me, but how does that work in the sense of those concepts that seemingly people would think were in contradiction? And then after that, I'm going to go on to the next question. But I have to say, what you said was so important. There's so many things that I would want to unpick, but I'm going to let you speak because it's your time.
All right. May I, my brother, because what you just said is very patriarchal. Say that again. Think about that question.
Mm.
Why isn't a mother a protector? Look at nature.
That's right.
Go near the cub of a lion.
That's right.
Look at nature. I'm not nature. So I can't really look at that question from the viewpoint of, you know, my naked enemies, who sees me only as a breeder.
Beautiful.
Or a trophy.
And I think that's the point. The point is we have to be able to break open these conceptual boxes that keep us trapped, not understanding what mother is, not understanding what father is. Because when I was in my mother's womb, my mother was my first protector. So
Original angel is a Black woman.
I hear you, sister. So it's important.
That's the archetype. They just made white.
I hear you. It's important that when we ask these questions, it is designed for us to go deeper and for us to see that what we have been taught has and is impacting the way that we relate to one another. So I thought that was a beautiful, and the way in which you broke that down was wonderful. And it feeds into my next question, which you've already really touched on. And the question that I'd actually written was that to me, you had an inherent spirituality that to me emanated from you. And as I've listened to your discourse, I can see it very clearly. Now, it is interesting that for many people of African descent in the Caribbean, words like Vodun or Obia strike such a psychic chord in some of our people's minds. And so it's important then to recognize that what you are doing here is explaining to us and to our people that from where we came from, but in many cases we don't understand. And I say that because my father was a minister, and there were times when we would have conversations, and though he was very enlightened and he understood many things, but when it came to, in the Jamaican context, what he would refer to as Obia, when it came to just the name Vodun, I have seen people just rendered into these states of fear because of their lack of understanding. So in essence, what I'm asking you, which you kind of already touched on, to what degree does your understanding of the sacred science of Vodun aid you in your current work?
It's my source. And that's because I understand it. I'll give, like I said, there are things, there are ways of being that allows me to do this work. For instance, Vodun, and the proper spelling is Vodun, phonetically, to say it phonetically correct. And it means lifting up sacred energy in the Fon African language.
Mm-hmm.
And would you not, if you were a mother or a father of sane mind, want your issue to be lifting up sacred energies? Because this vessel can lift up many different energies when you come into this carnal world. And my ancestors decided to create a way so that you can be human and productive and a community asset by giving you a path of being. And that path was Vodun. And Vodun means you have a choice. You could go ahead and lift up the most basest carnal thing, right? Today, there was a point in time when the Great Mother, even after slavery, the mother was still elevated because that was the first angel of the universe, the Black Mother. But, you know, I in the 90s, I was representing a lot of hip hop artists, and they were absolutely being pushed into this carnal thing, this sort of playboy idea of what a woman is. And so today you have Joe Biden going to Cardi B in order to get to the Black community, a stripper. And so you can definitely live, and there is a place for the first chakra. You could live in that space of just the first chakra and deal with just sex at its, that's it, with no connection to spirituality. But there is something very important about sexuality. And when it's not mixed with if you're a young child and you're just starting out, that's a different thing. But when you start seeing like 40-year-olds, 22 people who should understand the maturity of what they put in their body and what it means, because that's what Vodun is about. Really, this idea that everything matters. Rhythm matters. Color matters. The way you walk into a room matters. The vibration you intentionally decide that you're going to bring into a space matters.
Matters. Mm-hmm.
So if all of your culture, your women, is about pleasing the male vision of what that is, because it's males writing these hip hop things, and that's all, then you're going to have a very base, unhealthy community that promotes promiscuity, and what we were trying to get rid of in the first place when we got rid of slavery, right? Because the planter in Haiti was the most promiscuous person in the planet.
That's right.
You understand? And now everything he was is being projected onto you.
Teach.
And here you are picking it up.
Mm-hmm.
When IAT said no. You understand? Mm. So I say that because it's very important that there are adults in the room. I see like 50 and 60-year-old children who want colonial celebrityism and the approvals and rewards that brings. And so, yes, you mentioned the price. There is a price paid for the work that I do, but I came here with a mission, right?
That's right.
And someone paid that price for me back in the spiritual world.
Teach.
And if I have to stand alone, and sometimes I've had to, right? Because even my own people don't recognize me, right? I speak Creole with the English accent. You understand? And somebody wants to dismiss you, they'll say that, right? But at Boakaima on August 14, 1791, most of those nations spoke different languages, but they understood one thing: that slavery was wrong. And they created one language, one psychology, and one call. And I say it all the time, and let me say it again. E mabumba, kanga mandele, kanga bafyoti, kanga najoki, kanga yo. They say we have to stop Mandele, the stranger in King Congo, in the language of Queen Nzenga. Mandele, because those women who helped start the Haitian Revolution with the three greatest generals that ever lived, Toussaint, Dessalines, and Christophe, those women understood all they came from the Congo with prophetess Kempavita and understood how Catholicism had taken over the prophecies and the oracles of what the Black women used to be. You go to any of these big churches, they still got a Black woman edifice. They call it the Black Madonna. You understand? But they don't want you to know who you are, because they're going to bring you Notre Dame and this career white woman chick who just came out of nowhere and was very happy with her males, her son, her husband, having sex in order to give her an estate. So 40% of the slaveholders in the American South were white women. And they want to talk to me about feminine, whatever they call, what is that thing called? Feminism. I'm like, there's a few things you got to fix first.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful.
So those are the things, you know, we must understand, like I said, all right, when you work with nature, that's who we are. But this society, this profit over people society is anti-nature. And when it's anti-nature, it will plant when it's supposed to let the earth rest. It will put a mine somewhere when it's supposed to, you know, not do, you know, they're just making all kinds of things. So I live in a world where I would like my people to be able to put into their body something that's good for them, organic for them, not GMOs. Live into a world where all children are protected and understand that they can say no to whatever they're putting on that television that's giving them maybe a negative self-image.
Okay. So it's really interesting that you talked about, because I'm writing, I'm doing a piece on ancestry and this issue of the creation of you and how many generations it took to create a specific person who comes with a specific job to do in uplifting the people. And it's so powerful to hear that reflected in what you're saying, sister. And one of the things that I remember when I first learned about, and when I say learned, I say that carefully because I'm not learned in regards to the Haitian Revolution. But I remember picking up C.L.R. James. And for me, there were two particular persons that stood out for me, but I didn't necessarily get them from the C.L.R. James. It was more Carruthers' Irritated Genie. Now, it's clear by me speaking to you and listening to you that there's so much more work to be done in terms of unearthing and giving a correct understanding of what really happened in Haiti. But two people that I found really interesting were Bookman, especially being his move from Jamaica to Haiti, and Dessalines. I read about Toussaint, but in terms of my thinking, it was Dessalines that really touched me. Now, having listened to you, it's very clear that the feminine aspect in terms of the revolution has been missed out and must be put back in place. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of the important figures in terms of the Haitian Revolution, which ones stand out to you, or which ones initially stood out to you, and why, perhaps?
Well, like you, I was educated into Toussaint Louverture. I think there's like more than 20 or more biographies of Toussaint Louverture out here. And the white man loves to do that, to lift the there are different energies in the universe, and one of the two major ones, it's Rada. Rada is a person who is naturally non-confrontational. Rada is a person who more passive aggressive than me, right? Like I don't do passive aggressive, right? I'm gonna be straightforward. So in the Haitian Revolution, there was an energy vibration that's called Pétro. Pétro is the energy of war. And sometimes you need both. I remember a long time ago, I was talking to Minister Farrakhan, and we were talking about the Haitian Revolution, and I was saying to him that Malcolm X is Dessalines and Martin Luther King is Toussaint Louverture.
Yeah.
That if you just read all of our history as revolutionaries, those two energies keeps repeating.
Energy is always there.
Right?
That's
Keep
right.
repeating. Once you understand those archetypes, then when you walk into a space where I did as the lawyer of the first democratically elected president, who was Toussaint energy, we clashed because I was Petois. You understand? I was like, so, but if you did not learn that it requires both.
That's right.
Then you, because we are not learning what we need to learn about energies and archetypes and how they issue, right? Like I frankly, you're gonna have to prove yourself to me if you come from the lineage of the planters. Like I'm not gonna believe a word you say, I will believe your actions, because that's it. Jean-Jacques Dessalines said that only good white person was the one that loaded the guns for him on the bad ones. You can load my gun, thank you very much. But the Toussaint Louverture archetype will negotiate. He actually sees only the good side of his enemy. I don't have that energy. And I'm tired of Black people with that Toussaint Louverture energy. So at the Free Haiti movement, let it be known that Èzili Dantò is here to free her people. And Èzili Dantò says, this is Peto's time. You come correct or don't come. Mabamba, that means get rid of Mandela, period. Block him, get him out of your society. Get rid of the Bafioti. There were some African tribes, the Bafioti, came from West Africa, who were part of the enslavement paradigm. When they got to Haiti, they were called the Bafiotis. They were the Black collaborators. You've got to find a way to get rid of the Black collaborators. And then all their evil forces. That is the Bwakaima call that began the Haitian Revolution. Don't listen to these academics telling you that the Haitian Revolution started because the Black folks were looking at the European French Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that they wanted to help the king out. All right. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to write one day about me and let it hopefully be a melanated person. I want it to be very clear. I did not come here because some white man was an abolitionist or some white woman was an abolitionist. I witness to what I am like the sun, sometimes alone. And that's who we are. And so Abdaraya Toya, to me, there are two women of the Haitian Revolution, and then I would say two men that I really, really appreciate and like to elevate as energies we need to repeat, because that's the whole point of repeating archetypes that are important to us, that will give us a step to move forward. So the first one, Abdaraya Toya, came from Dahomey. She was an Amazon, to use the European word, but in Adoji, Amino. She was one of the king's body security in Benin. Ends up in Haiti, and Abdaraya Toya looked around. So all of these, she couldn't find the war that she wanted to do. Like I can't find that war. Can't find Ogu. She couldn't find it. So what did she do? Her and the other women, they created the generals that did the Haitian Revolution. She went into slavery when she could have been in those Blue Mountains with Gunbijit, excuse me, not Blue Mountains. She could have been in the Haitian mountains with Gunbijit. I say Blue Mountains only because when you read Haitian, the Haitian story from a different, the academics perspective, they make as if we didn't know what was happening in Jamaica. We didn't know what was happening in West Africa. We just came from West Africa, but we didn't know. They were selling us between the islands, but we didn't know, right? Haiti was the place you came to die, right? Between 3 to 6 years. They sold Bookman's, from Jamaica.
That's right.
And we were told that his mother was participating in Queen Nanny's war over there. So you think he didn't talk to he started the Haitian Revolution. You think he didn't tell them about what was going on in Jamaica?
That's right.
Or how his mom was killed and how he was essentially, you know, if they don't hang you, if they don't drown you, if they don't do all sorts of things to you, cut off your arms, cut off your legs, whatever, they'll sell you to Haiti because that was the place to die. So they sent Bookman to Haiti to die. And he helped start the Haitian Revolution. He was its first leader, right? Quicken, the mumble, the priestess that held that ceremony. She came from the Congo. Hence that call in the Congo language. Mambo Inan. They say Bwakaima, but her name was Inan. Inan. So it was near the place of Inan. That's where they had the bookman and all the overseers. That's another thing, right? We are taught that once you have an education, you're gone. But that's not true. That's good for their strategy because they're always trying to co-opt the educated Negroes. But it was educated Negroes who helped start the Haitian Revolution with the Maroons and the women and children. The most important thing to remember that you won't read anywhere is that a family went to war.
Teach. Now, that was particularly interesting to me in terms of your last statement in regards to the family. And it demonstrates a number of things. One of the mistakes that many of our people make when they look at the resistance in the Caribbean is that they don't realize that many of the people, and you've touched on this, many of the people that came or were taken to these islands, kidnapped and taken to these islands, were military people, were strategists. And so they were able in many ways to fight in a manner that we have not seen the like of today. And another thing is that having an African transformative cosmology, they didn't have the fear of death that many of us have, because the Christian religion injects a fear of death. So listening to you, it becomes very clear the importance of culture and the importance of your own living spiritual system, because that in itself gives you the psychology and the spirituality to resist. So that was a beautiful part of your discourse, sister. Now we're coming to close to the end, but I wanted you to, if you can, look forward in your mind's eye, in your imagination. What do you envision in terms of the future for African people? What is it that you want to see? What is it that you think that we should be working towards, my beloved sister?
So those who left us a path, like the Amazon warrior Abdaraya Toya, she showed you that the children are really important, that sometimes you know, after 7 years old, they say sometimes your whole psychology is ingrained, and you got to get
That's
the
right.
children very early to form them. And so I said there were 4 people in the Haitian Revolution that I'm focusing on these days. Abdaraya Toya, the woman who taught Jean-Jacques Dessalines as a youngster how to shoot, how to heal, how to have hand-to-hand combat. And this man became the greatest general that ever lived. Bar none, he beat Napoleon.
That's right.
Then you have another woman that did the spiritual work at Bois Caïman. Her name is Dédé Magritte. And she went into the Catholic Church with the Dédés in the same way where you see in in the Congo, they were using the Catholic Church, Queen Nzinga and Campavita. But in Haiti, I think the most important thing I have found is Dédé Magritte so far in terms of the lost voices of the Haitian Revolution. Because this group of older, already used up women who were only valued because of their healing abilities were the ones to gather together all of the pieces, the overseers, the maroons, the enslaved, and the freemen. They gather all those pieces together as one to do that Haitian Revolution. So when you see folks writing about how Africans synchronized Èzili Dantò and thought somehow the white woman called Notre Dame, the made up one, was Èzili Dantò at the church. I'm going to tell you that in that Catholic church at Cap-Haïtien, Dédé Magritte was there. So when they went, they did see Èzili. She was in the church. They were the ones that would wash off the newly brought in enslaved and put herbals and other things on them and put them in the auction block and tell them to calm down. We're going to find someone who speaks your language, and wherever they sent you in the north, we know somebody. Because they were a part of the slavocracy that the European never thought would say this, cut their heads off and burn the plantation. So for me, we have to have that psychology. We gotta stop talking about what we're gonna do and just do it. So if I answer the question, the other general that for me had a vision of what the future should be for us. So we've talked about Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and I've told you he's Ogu, he's the protector. When he had an opportunity, he married Marie-Claire Wars, but he asked her to adopt all those children that he had. You understand? Like I said, they did all kinds of things to men out there back in those days. So he had a lot of children, and a lot of these men did too. If you look at Madame Toussaint Louverture's wife, somebody had to rape her because she had a mulatto child. But Toussaint adopted that child as his. These are important. I want African men to look at these paths. It's not about being a revolutionary as defined by the politics of white supremacy. Are you a good father? Are you supporting the women and children? Are you a protector? Are you living up to the archetype that you were brought into, your metet? So the last general, his name is General Moïse. And he was the general that said to Toussaint, no. Toussaint adopted Moïse as his nephew. And when Toussaint was trying to prove to the priests and the other Europeans, because he was negotiating with them, that he could get the Black folks to go back into the plantation and continue to do the same thing they were doing under slavery. And the people were rebelling against Toussaint. there was a general that was his nephew, General Moise, who he ordered to force them. And General Moise did not. I elevate General Moise as the future. That male who will not force us to go work in order to prove to the white man he's a good leader, who will not force us, who will put first and foremost our health, our security, and our local economy, not the economy of the so-called motherlands. So to me, what I look forward to is a world, blanketly, frankly, all children, no matter what their race is, are raised to understand how to operate this vehicle, right? To understand that what you put into it affects your life.
That's right. Your life force.
Your life force. Exactly.
Teach.
Word. I want all children to know that. And I'd like a world where the marketplace is not the place where certain things are negotiated. There are certain things that are important to basic life that should not be left to the marketplace.
That's right.
So for me, health, a skill, education, shelter, clean water, and personal security. I want all the world not to have that. That is something as a community we should provide. And it should not, those things should not be left to, that's the only really reason for having government, those 4 or 5 things. The rest can go to the marketplace. But personal security, clean food, non-GMO, organic, right? A skill, education that meets the requirement of your community. Access to healthcare. So those are the things I don't think, but like if you write a book, yeah, go put it into the marketplace. If you do a movie, art, whatever, marketplace. But there should be some basic things.
Fundamentals.
And so that's my vision of the world.
Yes, yes. It's interesting because I'm thinking of Marcus Messiah Garvey, who talked about you will find me and see me in the whirlwind. And when I looked at the fundamentals that you spoke about, I was hearing Marcus Garvey. I was hearing the program of Elijah Muhammad, Booker T. Washington, some of these basic foundational things that are so profound that many of us don't really pay attention to. Also, what was really significant is you talked about the pieces, the different groups that had to come together to unify into that oneness so that there was the ability to work as one behind one particular cause. So that was really significant. Now, I'm going to say that I have really enjoyed listening to you, sister, and I would have 1,000,001 questions for you, but not today. But I want to say to you that it is profoundly wonderful to hear somebody speak without fear and to acknowledge the power of the African system and to call out that power from within us. You were talking about how in the European world, there's this split personality where you're told one thing is good and then you do the opposite. So there's no coherence. And it reminded me of this concept from ancient Kemet called Makaru, where you can see the truth, you can live the truth and be the truth. But in this culture, we are taught to be deceptive. Yes. We are taught not to see what we actually see. We have all kinds of doublethink And Du Bois talked about the warring souls, because many of us as African people are at war. And I wanted to just say this one thing before I ask you the last question. One of the things that is really important to me when I look at African people, we have this thing where when any of us are killed, especially by non-Africans, we talk about forgiveness before the story has even come out. Black people are forgiven. Now, why I'm pointing to this is because of this. One must control their vehicle in terms of their energies. So I'm not talking about, I'm not saying that one cannot understand forgiveness on one level, but it's a very different thing because it's not really forgiveness. But the point is this: most of us know nothing about enslavement in terms of what really happened. I'm currently reading on this issue because I'm writing a lecture, and the more I go into it is the more that I see. For example, you pointed out many people think, oh, it was the Caucasian man. They don't understand the role of Caucasian women in enslavement. They don't understand how these women put Black men in all kind of situations. They owned men, they owned women, and they weren't. In fact, I've read where they said that sometimes the women were crueler than the Caucasian male. I don't know the truth of that, but I've seen it.
Oh, go to Virginia. They did the law because white women, there's a law in Virginia that was created because white women were killing the black people and Black children.
Yes, ma'am. So it's important for us, if we're really going to honor our ancestors, to learn the story of our ancestors and uplift them. And remember, we are the ancestors who have returned. So it is part of our job to uplift those people and to allow our young people to understand those stories so that we can say, never again. So with that, sister, I'm not going to go into any more of a discourse because I really feel like I want to, but I'm not going to. So I wanted to just ask you if you could just briefly touch on, because again, we're going to have you back in 2 weeks. That's going to be wonderful. But I wanted you to just briefly touch on just a couple of the elements you might refer to in your lecture that you're going to do in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if I call it a lecture, but I talk about the Haitian Revolution from a perspective of Èzili Dantò, the warrior mother, from the perspective of Ogu, the warrior father, and also from this idea that the Haitian Revolution was a revolution about getting rid of tyrants, but that getting rid of tyrants was replaced by tyrants. White academics love that. And I definitely tell you that's not true. And you're going to get it from that, because I'm going to show you. I spent a little time giving you, see, the thing is, we don't study them. I sort of look at white men that were in power at that time. I'm going to leave you with that because I'm hoping to be able to focus a little bit on that. Who were they in 1789? Right? They were having their revolution against monarchy.
That's right.
Were there any Black people in that revolution? They never tell you. And who were they? Those who are going to be listening to me, look up Joseph Boulogne, right? The Chevalier de Saint-Georges. This guy was a mulatto from Guadeloupe, and he was the greatest swords person, not in France only, but in Europe. Oh my God, no wonder Rochambeau was so mad. the greatest swordsman, was born out of slavery in Guadeloupe, brought at 7 years old to Paris by his father. Not only was this man the greatest swordsman, and I say that because I want you to think of modern day, right? Remember when, like, back in the day when the sort of dramatic white domination people talked about how they were so strong, right? But imagine, right? They're telling you you're just livestock, 3/5 human in America and all that. And then you beat them at their own thing.
Mm.
The great, okay, Joseph Boulogne. But not only that, in that time, because he didn't die until, like, I think 1799. So that's pretty much a good chunk of the Haitian Revolution time, right? What were these white men who came to fight us thinking, and what did they want to see? They did not want to see. Who else? Who else? The Black Count.
Mm-hmm.
And mulatto.
Mm.
Who was essentially one of the greatest generals they had over there, right? He ended up having his son was the guy that wrote the Three Musketeers. So given a little education, we were superseding them. They had to stop that.
That's right.
But when they write Haitian history, they don't tell you what was in the mind of the white man. They try to tell you what was in the mind of Dessalines. Like, how the hell you know? Why don't you just look at what you were doing?
That's right.
So for me, you will see that. I will talk to you about Chevalier de Saint-Georges, who was Mozart before Mozart. He taught Mozart.
Okay, sister.
Composer.
Okay,
All
okay.
right. And who were we in Haiti? You know, besides, you know, they talk about Toussaint, right? They act out like Toussaint was nonviolent. He was, you know, no, Toussaint killed a bunch of them. But because he fought the colonists, Spaniards, and the colonists, English, they lionized him, right? And because Toussaint stood for the pattern that we have today, neo-colonialism. That's what
right.
Toussaint stood for.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes,
Toussaint
yes.
stood for Black rule French colony, and him as the ruler.
That's right.
The women of the Haitian Revolution did not stand for that.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, no. And you will learn that when I'm talking to you, what, 2 weeks from now?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, like I said, the Black Count, you know, these, you know, they hated Black males.
Mm.
Okay.
Teach it, sister. Teach it.
Hated Black males, period. It didn't
Teach.
matter. But they want to tell you the only division in Haiti was between the mulattoes and the free
That's
Black,
right.
or the mulatto, like the colorism, because that helps their strategy.
That's right.
But a lot of the women in the Haitian Revolution were mulattoes.
Mm.
Because these women had no future. They were sexual objects to be used.
Teach. Teach.
Marie-Jeanne.
Mm-hmm.
You understand, right? These women, if the Daydays didn't take them out of the school that they were in that Catholic school in Notre Dame, and bring them to Vodun ceremony and do their consciousness, right?
Mm.
One of them would not have become the queen of Haiti. The other one would not have become, although Marie-Louise wasn't mulatto, but she became the queen of Haiti because Dédé Magritte was the spiritual advisor to her husband, Henri Christophe. And Grand Guiton was a spiritual advisor to Dessalines. You will learn about these women. You will learn about all of the various, the overseers, the women in the Catholic Church, the healers, the Toussaint, and Grand Brigitte, and the women in on the mountains, right? 450,000 Haitians, Africans were in that revolution. But the only people you hear about are the ones the Europeans want to talk about, the one they have a record of. Well, I have some records.
All right. Yes, ma'am. And I can clearly see that. And I've definitely gone over time, but it was because the talk was so encapsulating. It was so interesting to me. And I'm truly, we are truly blessed, my beloved sister, for what you gave, the energy, and just the analysis. It was for me, it was a masterclass, and I know you're not even on your subject yet, but I'll say that from my perspective. So I'm thanking you. But I wanted to just say we will take a couple of questions, but not many, because Sister has really given us so much already. And for that, we are truly thankful. So if you have a couple of questions in the chat, and if you would, Brother Jawand, if you could read out the questions in the chat, maybe let's take 2 or 3. And then we can end up, because what a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I knew you was going to be good, sister, but I didn't know you was going to be that good.
Honor and respect.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
It's a proof, family. Thank you, Sister Èzili Dantò. It's a question and answer. It was an interview, but it was a lecture there too. And now we appreciate all the information you shared. I can't wait to the February 11th so we can hear your presentation, because if this was an example, tell your friends, tell your family, come out to this next lecture, because this sister is dynamite. I'm going to take some few questions here. I have here. What energy did Toussaint Louverture use to defeat the white slavers in Haiti?
All right, so Toussaint was already dead when the Haiti had became Haiti, right? Because he was kidnapped. But the person you're talking about, the person who actually did beat Napoleon in the War of Independence, his name is Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and his energy is Pétuo, and he's Ogu. Remember, Toussaint knew who he was. He used to be called Toussaint. By 1792, guess what he changed his name to? Anybody? Well, you know his last name, and it means the opener. So he was Legba. He opened the door, and then we went in and annihilated them. They've never forgiven us for that.
Thank you. There was a question. How do you spell Guinée-Franc again? How do you spell that?
Guinée-Franc. You're probably not gonna. Anyways, so Guinée, G-I-N-E-N, Guinée. Franc is F-R-A-N. It means that you are one-pointed, that you really work, because this takes discipline, people, okay? For your thoughts, you have to school your thoughts, right? Remember, everything is energy. So you're not just this solid space, there's energy, and all those energies bombarding you every day. So you have to be able to control your thoughts, which then controls your action. You understand? So that's what Guinée-Franc means, right? Your thoughts, and then your words, and then your actions, right? So for me, I say there's a core group of ambassadors, Western ambassadors, from the countries that we beat. France, the United States was there, of course, is now the superpower that we helped make it, right? Because the Haitian Revolution, you learn that next week. Yeah, so you gotta watch out for your words. Like me, for instance, I'm not Christian, and there is the core group in IT, and I know that all of the horrible terror that they're visiting on my people right now will rebound to their lines to the end of time. And I say it very loudly, because my words will not return void.
Thank you, sister. Another question. It's a very interesting one. How would you go about teaching Vodun to children born in Western culture?
There are Everybody learns differently. So you have to look at your child and see how they learn. When I started, I understood Vodun through movement, right? Because rhythm is something that animates me in some ways. So when the drums are played, there are certain rhythms. And so you got to know your child. It's not this universal thing. If your child is a painter, if your child is I have a niece, she paints. Okay. So what I teach her is, just the various, like I said, this is DNA, right? You can take one concept and take it all the way to whatever you need, whether it's math, whether it's science, but just remember that some children learn from their ear, some learn from their sight, some learn from their movement. So that's the basis. Learn that first about who you're teaching. And then, like I said, I think that first thing, this is the thing that we have to bring into the world, that we don't want plausible deniability. We want your word to be bond. If you teach that to your child and then you act that way, remember, they're looking at you. Are you living that way? The best example is how you live.
Beautiful, sister. Beautiful.
Sir, could we just end the questions there? So if you can make your remarks, my brother, and then I'll have a couple of words to say before the end.
I'd like to thank you, Sister Èzili Dantò, for such a insightful, enlightening, and mind-shaking interview. The information you shared was inspirational, touched my soul, and it made me feel good, because this is what we're working towards, or moving towards with Sa Productions. So I want to thank you. Also, I would like you to give our viewers a chance to help you out with your mission too. You have some organizations going on. You have the free the water program in Haiti. Can you quickly mention that and give us a link where we can go to, so we can donate to your cause, to our cause?
Thank you very much. I asked folks, honestly, I am shadow banned. I've been doing this for decades, but many people are just learning about me. It's because they don't want my voice out there. So if you could help us with Free Haiti, like, that would be nice. Like, if you have a Twitter account and you use that Twitter account, use our hashtag. That would be helpful. Make that go viral, because there is a Free Haiti, and I represent that Free Haiti. Remember, even under slavery, our people did not become slaves.
That's right.
So even under colonialism, I'm Free Haiti. And we just need that energy to go bigger. And that's where you come in. So if you go to my Èzili Dantò website on YouTube, I have a lot of stuff there, but we don't get more than like 300 views, because we're shadow banned. So get your friends to go in and bring up the views. Get your friends to know the work. It's out there. Don't wait till I'm gone to remember or to use the work. I hope that so EziliDantò.com is my website. As I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and but I would like to bring up the YouTube, because I'm thinking of doing some maybe some lives if you guys are interested, but I'm not a person that just talks. I want there to be an interest. And so that's why I haven't done it yet. So yes, use the Free Haiti tag. And if you're interested in making a donation, right on my, there's two types. There's PayPal, which comes directly to the Èzili network. And that's not, what do you call that? That's not a non-for-profit. That's just for my research work, the research I've been telling you about today. And then there is, and then of course I have a newsletter. If you send me, I'll put my email here. If you want to be part of the Èzili Dantò newsletter, and you send me your email, and on the subject line, you say newsletter, I will put you on that and you can get information. So that's it. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope that I'm blessed to be here, and I hope that you've been blessed with the energy of the ancestors.
Yes, yes, yes. So with that said, beloved sister, we will collect all your information so that for the next presentation, we have all of that to give to the people who are there so we can support you in this mission. As I said, I have to say, a wonderful, I know, sister, you said it wasn't a lecture. All right, then it was a masterclass, whatever you want to call it.
I know, I don't give time. I don't give names to what I do. I just do it.
I hear you, sister. But whatever you want to call it, it struck a chord with the consciousness of where African people need to go in understanding the resistance, strategic resistance that you talked about. And so what I want to say is that we thank you very much from the bottoms of our heart in regards to the time that you have spent here. And we know that your next time will be even greater. And I would hope that we would form some kind of working relationship that we can cross-fertilize each other's work so that we can really continue the mission of seeing African people decolonize our minds, decolonize our diets, detox and decolonize our energy and bodies so that we can become the fulfillment of what our ancestors laid down in their efforts to return to the African concept and the African cosmology so that we can live our lives as free Africans. So I would say to anyone who is still here, put something in the chat if you haven't done already, and we will be signing off shortly. But again, without too much fanfare, thank you so much, my sister. And may you talked about before you leave in terms of the life force, but I think you got a lot of life force left and you got a lot to give. And I can already see that you're giving birth to a mindset that is going to be significant and important in our forward move for African liberation. And so thank you so much, beloved.
Honor and respect. Thank you.